this video, we're going to discuss the process for completing exercise 5-5 as an isometric drawing. The first thing that I need to do is just come down to my tray and right click and go to settings. I want to make sure that this is set to 30 degrees, track using all polar angle settings, and then on snap and grid I want to set up isometric snap, and now I'll say OK. Now, because I set this to 30 degrees, I don't really need to use any of the functionality to change my cursor, but I am going to start this just by drawing my first line, and I'm going to draw the line that goes across the front. So we'll draw that 80 millimeters. From there, this is going to go up 40. It's then going to go in 30, down 10, back 20, down 20 millimeters. I'm going to stop it for right now, and then I'm going to continue over here. This is going to go up 40, in 30, down 10, back 15, down 20, and then close off with this piece. So that is the beginnings of the isometric for this. Next I can draw my line right here that is going to go back 40 millimeters. And now I'm going to copy this line to every place that it's going to be applicable. And then we'll go ahead and close off these sections to give us the majority of this piece. I'm going to copy it again from here down to here, because we are going to see a portion of that back edge as it goes across, but it'll just be at 30 degrees, tracking along right there. That's our back edge. And if we look, those lines are right over top of each other. I don't need to worry about trimming them or anything else like that. All I need to do is make sure that I've got all of that information present. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start a line coming up from here 15. That's going to go back 20, up 10, come right back out to the edge. I need to trim out this section right here, and now I'll draw my 30-degree lines across here, trim out this, and then draw my last 30-degree line right back to there. So last line is going to be this one here. So this now represents everything that I need for the isometric exercise 5-5. What I want to do now is I want to draw my line across here and here to establish my lower right corner point, and then I'll draw another line here and here to establish my upper left corner point. So now diagonal line across there, and now I can do a diagonal line across the entire object, and now move all of this from the midpoint of this line to the midpoint of this line. That lets me know that I have everything centered up. So now I can either erase all these or put them on my construction layer. The next thing I need to do is begin the dimensioning process. So I'm going to be using align dimensions. Let me switch over to my dimension layer first. So we'll do our first dimension, which is going to be this one. I then need from here to what would be the intersection up this way, which I'm going to have to zoom in real far to be able to get this. And let me go ahead and oblique the other first. So I'll go to annotate, dimensions, oblique. I'm just going to select this one right here and kind of get it out of my way a little bit. Now I can go back into my align dimension and dimension from here actually to this intersection point. Now when I oblique this dimension, it's probably going to run over top of the other dimension. Okay, so now I can move this 15 And I'm just going to move it down to this midpoint, and then I'm going to grab this endpoint and move it back to that intersection so that everything's lined up. Next dimension, we're going to select here to here, and I'm going to drag that off and then oblique it. You can draw multiple dimensions and then oblique them, or you can oblique them individually. Sometimes if you have a lot of dimensions, it's easier to just go through and do all of the obliquing operations at once so that you can make sure that you're not getting too much clutter and confusion in there. So there's those dimensions, and for the rest of this piece, we've got the dimension down here, which is 15, so the horizontal dimensions are great, or the vertical dimensions are great because they're going to be the easiest ones to work with. So I can go ahead and place, I'm going to place these two, and I'm going to place one that's going to be for this. And then I can go to dimensions, oblique, select all three of these, and then just set my angle to be straight down. The only other thing I may want to do is I may want to come in here and draw a line that extends up just a little bit to show where that dimension actually comes from, and I can do the same thing right here to show that that dimension is coming from there. So now I need to go back into my dimension. I want to get this dimension right here, which is going to be 10. I need this dimension right here, which is going to be 10. And I already have an overall height of 40 on this, so I don't need the overall height dimension here. So it looks like I can get away with just these two 10s. So I'll go to oblique for these two dimensions. And since I just don't like the way they look right now, I'm going to make it so that they're nice and lined up and neat and orderly to some extent. So now we've got those in there. The only other things I'm missing, I need the dimension for the depth of this cut, which is going to be 20. So I'll go right back into my align dimension, and we'll bring this down to here. I'm going to oblique this dimension straight up and down, and then I'm going to click it and move it so that it's lined up a little bit better with the rest of the dimensions. One thing that I did there, since I clicked right here, I lost my gap. So rather than clicking right there, I'm going to recreate that dimension from here to the projected point of this, because I want to make sure that I maintain the gap or the extension line offset from the origin as much as possible. So now I'll come in here and redo this one and reline up those arrowheads just so that it looks a little bit better. I can also place my dimension of 40 on this side. So we'll click here to here, drop that out, and go to the oblique tool and put this in. Okay, now on the back side, where I have that 30 in two places, I can either put a single dimension in and call it 30, or I can just dimension it twice. In this particular instance, it may be easier just to go ahead and put in the dimension twice, because it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. So now we'll go to oblique and select these two dimensions and set them back on that angle. And if you notice, this is already lined up because of the way that I created it. So just a quick double check, make sure I've got all of my dimensions in here. I've got my 30, 30, 10, 10, 10, 15. I don't have anything in here stating that this is 10, but we can assume that it's 10 from this piece. And then I've got the rest of my dimensions. So there we have the completed exercise with all the dimensions and everything ready to go.